Bienvenidos y bienvenidas a Frugal for Health, una iniciativa que busca dar a conocer proyectos frugales de todo el mundo. Si esto de la innovación frugal aún no sabes de qué va de conseguir más con menos. Y te dejo un vídeo de Rogert que lo cuenta muy bien cómo hacerlo en el sector salud y social. Hoy estoy en las oficinas de la firma de inversión Villgro, una firma de inversión especializada en el sector salud y que viene de la India, pero que ha hecho una sucursal específica para inversiones en África. Hemos podido entrevistar a uno de sus fundadores, Rogert, y nos ha explicado todo el ecosistema de innovación. Mira la entrevista y si tienes un poco más de energía, vamos a hacer un debate con algunos de los participantes interesados. ¡Hasta pronto!
My name is Dr. Rogert Karanja. I'm a biomedical scientist. My career has been mostly academia, doing health research, diseases like malaria, leishmaniasis, that are mostly spread by insects. But as I was doing my research, one of the challenges I kept having was thinking about what happens with the solutions. We do this research, having studied the problem, having studied the issues, but then once you do the science and you come up with a solution, how does it then translate to impact? So that has been the main problem for me, and so because of that, I was keen to not just do research for the sake of publications, but to do research that will actually translate to impact, to serve the communities whose problems we were researching. So most of the insect or vector-borne diseases tend to be diseases that affect not just the poor, but the marginalized poor. And I think health research and innovation is very unique in that we can solve both. We can come up with health solutions, but also come up with local value chains that transform these solutions into an industry, create jobs, start creating an economic base for uplifting people's lives. From being a scientist to starting to think like an economist and and thinking more so like health innovation systems kind of thinking mindset, and that's ultimately what led me to what we're doing at Villgro. So Villgro was then created to address the gap I saw in academia of you do amazing research, come up with a diagnostic, come up with a drug, a vaccine, whatever, but nobody knows how to then translate it to impact. It takes business knowledge to translate it to impact. You need to understand issues of finance. I need to get venture capital to come and back this solution, invest in the solution. I need venture capital to help even think about IP, patenting it, to have a big enough market that warrants, that gives me the ability to recoup the high cost of R&D, for example. So what I discovered is as scientists, we are useless. We may be very brilliant, maybe the next Einstein, but if you don't have any knowledge of business, you're no good. So Villgro helps to fill that gap by coming alongside innovators. This could be scientists, could be engineers, could be computer scientists, and helping them to start thinking beyond that proof of concept they have, to map it out. What does it take to move from proof of concept to market approval? Second thing is it takes, of course, a lot more product development. There's still a lot of technical issues there, quality management systems, thinking through things of how do you get to manufacturing? If you're going to go to clinical trials, it needs to come from a GMP compliant facility and so on and so forth. And also thinking of the business model, because ultimately nobody invests in you if they don't understand how will they make their money back. So it's by what we bring to the table is the ability to see the end from the beginning. So if you come to Villgro as somebody who is a problem solver, an innovator, creating health solutions for this market, and by this market I mean Africa, what we're able to do is give you the benefit of working with experience that you don't have, experience of dealing with finances, investment bankers, regulatory authorities, other entrepreneurs, supply chain. When you hire people, how do you deal with human resource issues? How do you manage your books? So everything that you don't know. But in this case, for the health sector, it helps to have that very highly specialized knowledge. But then you then need to surround it with other knowledge that makes it practical and then enables it to translate to an actual product you can get in the hospital, in the pharmacy, and so on and so forth. So we bring that benefit of experience to do things you've never done before, so that you're not, it's an excellent idea, maybe it failed because you didn't know how to do good bookkeeping and the investors said, adios, we can't work with you. Or it failed because you hired a team and you are treating them like you are a general in the army and they are lowly, little, it's not a boot camp. You need to have a culture that attracts and retains talent. And in most cases, you can't even afford to get the top talent. So even retaining talent means the way you manage people, personal relationships, you have to grow, you have to evolve, you have to learn. And so there are many things that make businesses and innovations especially to die. And our job is to kind of mitigate against those risks. So frugality is, let me first by saying, it's about managing costs. But again, in the health sector, so health sector is very unique. You can never cut corners on quality. So the first thing I want to let people know is, yes, we're about frugal innovation, but don't ever imagine for once that because somebody is poor, they can make do with less quality. No, you will never get anything into the market. And thank God, because we have national regulatory authorities whose job is to say what gets into the market and what doesn't. And they don't bend over, it has to meet quality standards. So the question is then, how do you achieve those high quality standards, but still end up with a product that is going to be affordable? And by affordable, I mean it needs to be profitable for you, it needs to be profitable for the investors, you need to even think about profitable for even the distributors, and still make sure that you can achieve all that and deliver quality care to the patient. And I always I like the example of the ultrasound, because it's a really good example that when you see, initially, if you wanted an ultrasound, you'd walk into a room that had a massive machine in the center of that room, and somebody who had to wear a white coat because it looks so techy. And nowadays, if you tell me an ultrasound, all I need is a phone and a probe, and you'll be wasting computers where all of those things have vanished. The technology has become simple, smaller, portable, and without sacrificing the quality. That is what, to me, is frugal innovation. And the second part of it is also to highlight why this is special for us, because in Africa, we have a problem of market failure. Last year, we were about 0.79% of the global revenue, of what the revenues, of all the revenues made globally by the pharma industry. 0.79%, we're not even up 1%. That is drugs and vaccines and therapeutics. If you think about medical devices, equipment, we are less than 0.1% of what the industry makes every year. So how do people survive? The reason that these products are not coming in is because in some of the advanced markets, the price elasticity goes on forever. I can introduce a health product in the US and charge $100,000 per pill, and that market can take it. If I come to Kenya, even at $100 per pill, the number of people that can afford are not many. So we have to think different, and we need to rethink the whole system, not just about the product. So that's why I said frugal innovation for me would be even the drug vaccine discovery, drug vaccine development phase, how we think about clinical trials. All of those things can be transformed with technology. With all these new ways that we're discovering in different places, if we were to then come back and keep reassessing every 4 or 5 years, is there a smarter, more cost-effective way of doing X, Y, Z? During COVID, we saw what has always been the mantra in the industry, that it takes 10 years to develop a vaccine. During COVID, we did it within a year. Why? Because AI was doing a lot of stuff. By the time the first sequence of the COVID vaccine, the COVID virus came out, within 24 hours, within 48 hours, all the vaccines that we used globally were designed, because now there's a lot more AI machine learning happening. It's frugal innovation. So it doesn't necessarily mean frugal means low tech. There's what we can do with low tech, which is saying, hey, do I need to have all this bells and whistles? What can I get rid of? Yes, that can work. But also, again, you can take the very high tech and bring it and apply it in a way that then makes reduces the attrition rate that happens from discovery phase all the way to clinical trials, phase 3, and market approval. by working with things like AI and machine learning. So the key thing is don't sacrifice quality, but do more with less. Okay, great. So I think so. Africa is, again, it's an amazing market. We're still growing a lot and have a long way to go. But what we've seen is, since maybe the last 20 years, there's been a lot of growth within the startup space. And this is, by startup I mean high growth, tech-driven startups, businesses that are usually export focused. And I love this space of startups because these are companies that create jobs, create a middle class, create massive revenue value chains. And I think in Africa, we typically see 4 countries that tend to dominate. So Kenya being one of them, South Africa, Egypt, and Nigeria. So these 4 countries typically take about 80% of all the venture capital coming into this continent. And most of that money typically goes into sectors like finance, fintech. I think there's a lot happening in climate change now, renewable energy. I think, which is the other one that I've seen that is attracting. So there are 4 or 5 sectors that I would say have been the go-to for investors. Health sector was not doing well until COVID happened. Then after COVID, I think we've seen a lot more focus coming to the health sector. Because COVID was an important reminder that you can do a lot of stuff, but we always take our good health for granted. It's only when you lose it that you value it. So during COVID, the whole world was shut down. We couldn't even leave our houses because there was a pandemic at this virus that was scaring all of us. So all of a sudden, investors realized to safeguard the other amazing fintech, now you need vaccines, now you need health solutions. And when I look from 2020 till now, where initially we were predominantly working in Kenya and East Africa, but from 2020 onwards, we literally just became Pan-African. So now you'll see us supporting startups across from Morocco to Lesotho to Senegal to wherever, you name it, we have startups that we've been supporting in these countries. And then the second thing is also, it's one thing to support them as an incubator accelerator. They need money to be able to grow. So again, that pipeline of money coming into play has also been a big boost. Great question. So I think the first one I keep seeing is the mindset. So most of the venture capital is coming from outside of Africa. And so there's usually a bit of a gap in terms of then understanding how do you invest in Africa. I think everybody now, there's definitely consensus that the typical Silicon Valley approach will not hack it here. The problem has been, then so what will? So we know what doesn't work. The question is, so what is the winning model? And there is no consensus, I'll be honest with you. But I can give a bit of some of the why the Silicon Valley model doesn't work. You typically expect you're gonna raise a fund, deploy capital the past 2-3 years, create market value in the portfolio companies, exit in the year 7 to 10. Now, for us, especially like in the health sector, health sector is the most regulated industry, period. Even R&D is regulated, forget market approval. So there's no, you have to break some eggs to make an omelette. Everything is done with regulation. So that slows you down. So that assumption that you can come in and you can power through stuff, in a very regulated sector like ours, it doesn't work because you cannot operate illegally. Second thing is that we've also realized the ecosystem half the time is not really there. So if you're talking of, for example, basic things like our healthcare system, most of the healthcare system in Africa is paper-based. So if you're building a tech company and you expect people to adopt tech solutions for telemedicine and so on and so forth, you need to go back and ask yourself, at what base are they operating and how do you close the gap? What are the barriers for adoption? And so in essence, what I've seen tends to be the rule more often than not is every startup founder you see builds their startup and builds their ecosystem for their startup. Now, for most investors, they're sitting there thinking, making assumptions that this ecosystem exists because that's the job of government. What happens when it doesn't exist? And I've seen a lot of cases where there's a tension where investors are kind of thinking that this entrepreneur, this innovator is being distracted by ecosystem issues, whereas they should just double down and focus on their company. These other things should be sorted out. They will never be sorted out. If you're going to succeed, you need to do both. You're going to need to build your ecosystem, you're going to need to build your company, and make it happen. But the best thing about it is it's more powerful than a patent, because a patent will expire after 20 years. When you've built the ecosystem for your venture and you've scaled it and you've scaled that ecosystem, then you have the key to the ecosystem. That is a much more valuable and much more long-lasting moat than any patent could ever give you. So that ability to think long-term, but also manage long-term and short-term interests, that nuanced understanding of this market is critical. And coming in with the mentality of this is how things operate in the global north, then you will struggle. Then the third thing that I've seen that has made investment difficult is by the time a startup can absorb, can raise a Series A, they need to have worked with smaller amounts of money as they build their existing financial policies and infrastructure and what have you, so that you can actually have confidence in them that they can absorb the money you bring in as an investor. That has been the hardest part, to be honest, because there's very little seed capital available or pre-seed rounds that you can do. We don't have local capital in the name of angel investors. What we understand very well is micro SME and microfinance. I think that is where the mainstream of entrepreneurship and finance is. So when you talk of the startup game and you ask where are the innovators, where is the pipeline of startups that I should be investing in as a venture capitalist, then you discover if you wait for only companies that you start off with a $1 million check, you will never deploy your money. You need to start being a little bit more flexible and say, who can I give a check of 200,000, but it allows them within 12 months to be able to absorb $500,000, $1 million. And you kind of then are forced to start building your own pipeline too. So, and again, these are kind of the challenges that, especially in the health sector as Villgro, we help you to do. We're able to work with investors, help them surface deal flows. We're able to work with those diamonds in the rough, those startups that cannot be able to do much, but we provide our own capital to build them up to the point where they start becoming viable for venture capital. The opportunities are many. I think what I've seen is, number one, and this has really helped us a lot, is having a sector focus. It means we're not interested in doing agriculture or clean tech or so, and initially in the early years, the opportunity cost was almost overwhelming. Everybody was asking us, how are you gonna grow? Your market size is so small, and so on and so forth. And like I said, when COVID happened, we were among a few people who were fully health dedicated, had already cut our teeth, and our systems were primed for scale because we've been very consistently focusing on the health sector, and so we took off, in a way that has been amazing to watch when I look back, and I think so. When I look at what it is that makes us different is that we have a customized health sector kind of approach. So when we think of ourselves as an incubator, we provide, most incubators or accelerators think in months. For us, we think in years. We're able to support you for 2 years, and you can even double down for another 2 years. Most people will be thinking that's crazy. But we know it takes time, and we know, again, the kind of place we're working in, there's no quick fix. So we've already structured our systems for the long haul. Second thing we do is we've also learned how to invest in our selection process. A lot of incubators, accelerators kind of have this idea of you're gonna spray and pray. You dish out money and then it's a numbers game. Expecting that, randomly 10% should come through. For us, if you look at the Villgro model, 70% of our startups are able to generate, to attract follow-on funding. 25% of our startups will be able to raise a Series A. And this is a model we've done in Africa, we've done it in India, we've done it in the Philippines, serving the Asian economies. and reproduce the same exact statistics. So it tells you our methodology definitely works. Third thing is, I think, just having that proven methodology. When we started Villgro Africa, again, I was not an entrepreneur. I've never done the things that I'm supporting the startups to do. But because I had access to the Villgro playbook, and Villgro's been around for over 21 years, supporting frugal innovation, social entrepreneurship, and doing impact investment in India. With the goal and vision of transforming rural India, all I did is to take everything they'd learned, bring it to Africa, and apply it in the health sector. And let me tell you, the benefit of the richness of all that knowledge, know-how, and very strong hand-holding from India is the big difference, because we didn't do trial and errors. And I could tell people, yes, we are new, yes, we are also doing it for the first time, but we're not doing trial and error. We have a proven methodology. and speaking of which, and sometimes people ask why India, and I think to me the answer is obvious. It's from India that the entire concept of the goal at the bottom of the pyramid, social entrepreneurship, frugal innovation, all of these are concepts that have actually emerged out of India. So being able to take the best of their startup ecosystem and bring that as our core DNA, and then now just domesticate it, has had tremendous advantages that I wish every incubator accelerator out there would have as much as we have. And then I think lastly has been the team. I think we've been blessed in being able to have the way we operate across the divide of academia or the technical world and the business world. So if you look at the way we are constituted as an organization, we have the scientists, we have the engineers, we have the PhDs in AI machine learning that are working with these startups. Then we have the financial analysts that speak like venture capital and make sure that whatever we are building speaks to the investment thesis of the people, downstream investors. And then you also have an amazing cast of people who are mentors, advisors that we bring on board as per what is needed for startups. Because we're working with them, we're not telling them how to do it. We are working with them. That's why I said our program is 2 to 4 years. 2 to 4 years is sufficient to have done even clinical trials. Moving from scratch, if you are coming up with a medical device or something, or an in vitro diagnostic. So if you think about it, that's again, it's unprecedented, having 80% of all the kind of technical, financial, and entrepreneurial support that somebody needs within one organization that you can plug into. And where your skills don't match, or where you have a gap, we step in and we build your company with you. And that's kind of how it works. Yeah. So we've been frugal not by trying to cut costs, but we've been frugal by being the way, by virtue of the scale at which that one resource is able to have much more multiple touch points across many companies. And I think that has been one of the critical things. And the second one is, I think we've also been frugal in the way we operate. So when we tell people we are working across Africa, if you think about it, we are able to serve people in Senegal, in Morocco, in Djibouti, in Lesotho. How? Because again, we make technology work for us. When we need to be there, boots on the ground, we do go there. And we're also very fortunate in that Nairobi is able to serve the continent. If you think of Africa, we basically have 3 airlines that typically connect most capitals. It's either South African Airlines, Kenya Airlines, or Ethiopian Airlines. So having the benefit of Kenya Airlines and, if I needed to, Ethiopian Airlines, which is an hour away from Nairobi, an hour or 2 away from Nairobi, means I can reach Accra, I can reach wherever I need to be when I need to be there and not have to. So being very frugal in the way we think about serving a market as vast geographically as a continent, and the way we then think about our logistics. So if I'm going to Accra, I won't go for a visit because of one company. I'll have made sure I've mapped out who else are we working with in the region, so that when I'm going to a certain place, I go with an itinerary that maximizes that trip. And so we think a lot harder in terms of how, but it helps us to keep these costs way down and makes it affordable to run our programs here. The only place you won't find us is Latin America. So maybe you should help us set up Latin America. So watch this space. New Latin America coming.
Bueno, pues llegamos al final de la entrevista. Esto ha sido todo con Robert. Ha sido impresionante poder hablar con él. Tenía clarísimo el concepto de la frugalidad y nos ha contado muchos detalles del contexto de inversión africano. Espero que os haya gustado y os dejamos un debate para profundizar un poco más con el tema con algunos actores de nuestro ecosistema. ¡Hasta pronto!